When you get like concrete on fire, it's fantastic, right?
Gosh, sledgehammering corn in our garage.
Yeah, that's how we ground the grain.
I'm your host, Jeff Zahrt. We're going to take you behind the scenes with the craft distillers who are pouring their heart and soul into crafting the next version of America's spirit. This is the Great American Whiskey Cookers. Welcome to this edition of the Great American Whiskey Cookers. We are here in Columbia, Illinois, Southern Illinois, and we are here at Monroe Distilling. I'm sitting with Adam and Laura. So you guys don't come to whiskey naturally?
No, we do not. We do, but we've not been.
Right.
I'm drawn to it, you could say.
Yeah. But you said yourself, you don't have a whiskey lineage. It's not built in your generations, right? You're not a Beam or a No or anybody like that. So you're farmers. So why, in today's marketplace, what made you think of starting a whiskey company?
Drinking whiskey, probably. No.
Okay.
But you really didn't even drink that much whiskey.
No, I didn't. It's funny. So at that point in time, I was educated as an engineer. Mom and Dad said, hey, if you want to farm, that's fine, but you're going to go to school first. So went to a little school down in Southern Missouri, educated as an engineer, came back, worked in St. Louis at the Anheuser-Busch Brewery. So, had the first part of whiskey making down, right, all the way up through fermentation and everything. And at that point in time, started going back to night school at Washington University to do my MBA. And there was a great professor in there. His name's David Poldoyan. And he kind of did several of the entrepreneurship things. And I'd say that's really kind of what kick-started it, honestly. But at that point in time, we were kind of conceptualizing a few different things. But I had my brand, worked at AB, made beer in college. I knew beer. And we were thinking about doing a craft brewery. And what we struggled to find was, how can we put value into craft beer for a consumer? And I didn't think that I could really do that effectively. We'd be making a style with similar grains to everybody else, similar equipment to everybody else. So found it very difficult to be able to differentiate ourselves. So at that point in time, I bought this little moonshine still. It's in the tasting room up front, ran it at home, and absolutely fell in love with distilling. First drop came out of there and was like, I'm going to do this forever.
So what did you think?
And here we are. Letting burn the house down.
Yeah. But, we realized that we could put value into whiskey at that point when, you go get a bottle of Henry McKenna 10-year bottled and bond, $32.99 on the shelf everywhere. Or you could go pay $60 for a craft bourbon that's under 2 years old, and it doesn't taste like the Henry McKenna. So there's a value difference here. How can we enter that? We saw really the main thing that we thought we could provide was kind of a taste of our region inside a bottle. We kind of took, I guess, what you would call the Napa Valley approach to whiskey. Okay. And we decided to actually tie the distillery to the farm and grow all of our own grains.
So you grow all your grains?
Yes. Originally, we started out corn, wheat, barley, and rye. We sent the barley off to get malted off-site, brought it back on. We've since kind of transitioned out of the barley piece of it and just do the corn, wheat, and rye.
So you buy your barley somewhere else?
We do.
And have it shipped in,
absolutely.
Which is pretty common. There's a lot of distillers that do that. But that's the whole process.
It is, absolutely.
Right. But the rest of your greens are all right here.
Yeah, right outside.
You farm them. We can step outside the door. It's literally 15 feet away, and we're stepping into a field. It's crazy.
Yep, absolutely. So it took us years though to figure out varieties of crops that perform both well in the field and the distillery. So that was a lot of trial and error, especially for like rye. Rye doesn't grow around here.
Oh yeah.
So they're
what kind of rye did you buy the first?
We import seed from Germany. That's a special hybrid rye. But yeah, the first time we asked the local co-op down here, basically, like, hey, we need some rye. Nobody plays cereal rye down here. And we start tearing the bags open to go dump them in the drill in the fall, and it was ryegrass seed. So yeah, it could have had a beautiful looking yard.
Didn't do much for whiskey.
That's actually the reason we started out with a wheated bourbon, is because we quite literally botched the rye the first year.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of learning, that's for sure.
So, all right, that leads me to a question. You're growing your own grains. How much farmland do you have? How much land are you farming? How many acres does it take to make the product?
Sure. So Laura and I specifically, and like the distillery, was 135 acres total. But the family farm is much larger than that. They're farming several thousand acres, and not that they own all of that, of course, they cash rent plenty of it, but I think it takes probably right at about 500 acres or so to support the distillery and everything that we're doing with it.
And that support of the distillery, that's supporting how many barrels a month or a year that you're putting out?
Yeah, right now we're generally 10 barrels a day, so 50 barrels a week. We are capacity constrained by our cooking and fermentation process. The still has got capacity to do 25,000 barrels a year. We understood very quickly, research, talking to people, that scale was a real thing and you had to be able to do it. So we've kind of always had that mindset, but the still is not our bottleneck of production, which is most distilleries when they start up. It's the mashing and fermentation side. So hopefully expanding soon.
You guys are the proprietors. You're the owners. You started this. So tell me what you do, how many hats you wear, and what all of it is that you guys are involved in.
So we kind of started a little bit differently. I mean, we're, I guess, not differently compared to a bunch of people, but we were bootstrapped. So we've had to wear, at some point, pretty much, honestly, every hat in the organization, everything from distilling to sales to accounting to janitor, you name it. So, we're almost 9 years down the road at this point. So luckily we've got a team, an incredible team in place to help support us. But still today, it's kind of just like firefighting, I feel like. We kind of have our core competencies, but it's wherever we're needed, quite honestly.
Yeah.
So you're doing pretty much everything, right? I mean, do you split the roles? I mean, like, do you handle the marketing, and do you get involved in distilling, or?
No, Adam pretty much handles all the production side of things, where I handle more storefront, marketing, social. I mean,
We have our lanes.
I know. I will not.
So, all right. So here's a really good question. You're husband and wife, so you're working together, right? You're working together all day long, and then you go home and you're at the home together. So you guys are together like pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Issues?
Well, I mean, yes and no. It depends on the day, right?
Okay.
I
It
feel like.
does. What's thrown at us that day?
Because it is hard. It's like you can't really shut it off, because it's a very it's a topic that we're both very deep in, and it's on your mind all the time. You know what I mean? So
You can't leave work at work when you own the work.
yeah, for sure. Especially when you're both there. I feel like it was easier whenever it was just me at the distillery all the time, and you still had your own job and all that. But totally different now. But honestly, there's days too where, yes, we technically work together, but I feel like there's days we're in the same building and we barely see each other.
Yeah.
So it's just, it depends what's going on. If the still's being finicky or there's a bunch of stuff going on in back, I might be tied to production all day, where, if the storefront's open, she could be cranking through up there and all that stuff.
Now you guys just are in the process, or just recently changed your name.
Yep.
Right? You used to be called.
Yes, we were Stumpy Spirits, and we just recently rebranded to Old Monroe Distilling Co.
So tell me about that. Why the rebrand to Old Monroe, and what's the history behind that? Why?
Oh my goodness, there are a lot of things, but I guess first the reason why. So when we kind of conceptualized the name Stumpy's, we wanted two things really. Tito's was huge at that point, and it still is obviously, but it's very easy to recall for a consumer, right? Tito's, it's very easy. It's always there on the tip of your tongue. So we wanted something like that was very memorable, that type of thing. And the other thing that we saw very consistently, at least through whiskey, I feel like, was a name attached to a brand or a distillery, something like that. So we don't come from generations of master distillers, but we come from generations of master farmers. So our last name is Stump. Pretty much every person in my family has been called Stumpy at some point in their life, just as a nickname, growing up, whatever. So we thought that was kind of a fun way to tie the family's name into the overall story. This is kind of one of those things, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Sure.
While we thought and still think that it's an absolutely fantastic name, it kind of carries a little different sound in the marketplace. So we do a lot of contract distilling, custom work, custom bottling, all that stuff. And, we'll get different clients in. And at this point, I think we had just gotten our still that we're running now installed. We're going through all the stuff, building all these pieces to the story and all this. And you're really going through this hard work. And dude rolls up in his Porsche, comes out, and he walks in, give him the tour. Absolutely love the liquid, fantastic quality, love the story, everything there is about it. And it's happened more than once, and it's always at the end, it's like, this is absolutely fantastic, just absolutely blew me away. Totally expected to walk in here and see like a one-legged dude in bib overalls, making moonshine or something like that. We're like, man.
It's time.
Yeah, it's difficult to scale a brand when there's kind of that connotation tied to it, and it's the exact opposite of what we're doing. So try to take the bigger picture approach and make sure that our company's got scalability, hopefully, for the future.
Okay, so why the name Old Monroe?
Yeah, so the name Old Monroe is actually the name of a whiskey or bourbon that was distilled on Columbia's Main Street from 1940 up until 1964 by the Columbia American Distillers. Yeah, there's all kinds of really cool records. They had 28,000 barrels on site. Actually, Glenmore purchased them. Their big brand at that time was Yellowstone. Glenmore purchased them. The biggest reason was because they had a rickhouse full of whiskey that was aging. Illinois, you are not taxed on aging whiskey. Kentucky, you are. So they got to buy a bunch of non-state taxed whiskey sitting here. And they had a pretty high-speed packaging line as well. So they got that, but ended up, I think the acquisition happened in 60. They shut down in 64 and eventually shipped everything up to Peoria, which was obviously a massive whiskey and bourbon hub at that point. Not sure if it went into the National Distillers facility or Hiram Walker or where up there, but those barrels went into Peoria and into somebody else's juice at some point.
So the name is specific and has some history to this area.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's what these bottles are here in front.
They are, yeah.
Correct.
A couple of artifacts. It's kind of crazy. It doesn't seem like 1964 should be that long ago. But I feel like a lot of the whiskey history is kind of lost in Columbia and even like the whole St. Louis area, right? There were multiple distilleries all over St. Louis. I mean, Jack Daniels had a place here in St. Louis too. And a lot of that history just seems to be lost to time. And it's been really difficult to find artifacts, stories, anything to even really bring the brand back. So pretty crazy.
You have some serious expansion going on. You got a new visitor center that you're building?
Yeah.
Right? So
all kinds of stuff.
You have an off-site rickhouse. I mean, we're sitting in a rickhouse right now, a storage facility, as you can tell by all the barrels that are around us, if you haven't already figured that part out. But you have an off-site storage facility, right?
Yeah, I guess at this point, it's really 4 locations. So you've got the distillery here and rickhouse, obviously liquid production, that type of thing. You've got the off-site warehouse, which probably has another 1,000 barrels in it at the moment. So that's what we're actively filling. You've got the visitor experience center and, the farm associated with that, which actually abuts the warehouse. And then you've got the packaging facility. So we also are partners in a co-packing and packaging operation where we do not only our stuff, but things for non-distilling producers, private labels, all that stuff.
Why is it that you think you can make a whiskey that competes with Big Bourbon? Why should I, as a consumer, walk past the Big Bourbon that's on the shelf that I've seen every single place and pick up this bottle?
We say we make old whiskey. We're only 10 years old, so not old in the sense that it's been in the barrel for 20 years, but we do follow very old production practices. Our bourbon recipe is from 1937. Our rye whiskey recipe is from 1911. We run a 102-year-old still. We run roller mills instead of hammer mills. And it goes back to what we were talking about before we started shooting, that whiskey from bygone eras taste differently than whiskeys of today. And I'm a whiskey nerd, not only from the production side of it, but also like the research and history side of it. So we wanted to be able to tie all of that together while wrapping in the farm piece and this historic brand and all that stuff. And by putting all of those super unique points inside a single bottle and a single package, is why we think we've got a bottle that's worth a shot at least.
I love it. Adam, Laura, thank you very much for the conversation and learning all about Old Monroe and the history behind it. Very cool stuff. Where do they find you? How does somebody get in touch with you?
Get us on Facebook and Instagram for sure, and drinkoldmonroe.com.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode and the conversation with Adam and Laura. There's a whole lot more videos coming, so make sure you keep checking the site. A number of ways you can support the channel. You can like us on Facebook and Instagram. Obviously, you can go to our website, like the videos there. You can buy some really cool merchandise, the shirts, obviously, hats and some other stuff. Or you can really take it a step further, go to Patreon, become a member, and you never know. You might get invited out to the bourbon bunker and for a tasting. Until next time, you be good at it. See ya.